Hi, everyone, and welcome to Remote Control from Los Angeles in the studios of Radiant Images on this Thursday morning. We are live. I'm Jim Chabin from the Advanced Imaging Society, and joining me again this morning is the global lead for media and entertainment for Google Cloud, our chairman, Buzz Hayes. Good morning, Buzz.
Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. These 4 weeks have gone fast, haven't they? This is our fourth and final in this series, and it's been a blast, hasn't it?
It has, and the reception has been amazing. It's funny because when we were first talking about planning this event, it just seemed like it was so far into the future, and now we're talking about the last event.
Right.
Last for now, I guess we should say, right?
I would say that in June and July, when we were saying, okay, we cannot meet in person, right? And people can't travel. So let's see what we can do. And everybody said, well, let's do Zoom calls. And we watched a lot of the Zoom calls, which were fabulous for conference calls. But we thought, well, we're the Advanced Imaging Society. How in the world are we going to do a seminar on a Zoom call if we're advanced imaging? So here we are several months later. And what has been fascinating to me has been we never anticipated that people would be tuning in from all over. We're so used to doing things here in Hollywood that we just never thought, well, if we put this seminar online, we expected our Hollywood community to join in. What we completely missed, blind, was all the people who would take us up and join us from all over. So where are people checking in from today?
Wow. Well, let's see. We've got folks from Vancouver. We've got folks from Dallas, Texas, from Santa Fe. We just got a shout out from Tamir from Israel. Welcome.
Great.
And we've got people from here in Los Angeles as well. And they keep chiming in.
I just saw Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Mhm.
So good morning, or what time is it in Brazil? It's great to have you. So it's been amazing because our first presentation 4 weeks ago was Matt Workman, who was in Boston. 2 weeks ago, we had the team from Discovery Networks. They were live from Bethesda. And then Vicky Dobbs and the team from ILM chimed in from the Bay Area, along with the new lead for Packet Fabric, Dave Ward. And so it's been remarkable that we've been able to have speakers from all over. And this morning, we're going to have one of our presenters from Auckland, New Zealand. And one of the great things about this MeetMo platform is the low latency. We're able to Zoom to another country or another city and have a speaker talk, and it actually works.
That's fantastic. It makes all the difference, right? Now that we're trying to figure out ways to collaborate when we're all in different places.
Yes. Fantastic. Yeah, a new way to collaborate. So New York Times yesterday announced the schedule for the movies that are being moved into next year. And as many of you watching know, and certainly if you're outside the United States, maybe you're not aware, but Regal Cinemas and Cineworld are closing 535 movie theaters in the U.S. Today. And the chairman of the parent company for Regal Cineworld said, quote, "We are a grocery store with no groceries. We need our movies. We need New York and Los Angeles movie theaters to be open. This is going to cost 40,000 jobs. China has 100,000 screens, and they're getting back up to speed, which is really, really good news. But here are the movies. You want to hear these?
Sure.
Okay, these are the movies that are moving off the schedule. Soul, the movie, we showed that trailer last week from Pixar. It was supposed to be in November in theaters. Now it's still scheduled in November. The question is where we will see it. Will we see it in theaters or Disney Plus? Cruella from Disney moved to May. Jungle Cruise from Disney moved to July. Black Widow from Marvel moved to May. Doctor Strange moved into summer of next year. Steven Spielberg's West Side Story was scheduled to be out this Christmas. It's now moved into next year. James Bond, No Time to Die, was to be scheduled. We showed that trailer 2 weeks ago. It's supposed to be here for Thanksgiving, for November. It's now being moved to April. Candyman from October to 2021. F9, Fast and Furious 9. That's being moved to April, May. Minions to July. Warner Brothers, The Batman, has now been moved to March 2022. So we're not going to see that for at least another year. Dune, starring Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, the young woman who was the youngest Emmy recipient at 24 2 weeks ago at the Emmys, that's been moved to the fall of 2021. Godzilla versus Kong, May of 2021. In the Heights from Lin-Manuel Miranda, that's June of 2021. Matrix 4, Keanu Reeves, April 2022. Wonder Woman, we're going to have that trailer this morning, 1984. It was scheduled for this Christmas and it's been moved to 2021. Top Gun, we're going to have that trailer this morning. It has been moved again to probably July, and Ghostbusters later next year. The thing that strikes me, Buzz, is, and you came from Sony Pictures and Lucasfilm, I just read off a list of 15 to 18 movies that are all saying spring or summer next year. Can you get all those movies in over a period of 6 months next year? It's going to be a gangbusters year whenever they come out. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. We've always had this issue of competing films on competing weekends in the past, and films used to play in theaters for months at a time. The windows got a lot shorter, and so it makes for a little bit of a traffic jam. So unless you're going to start extending some of these windows, it's going to be really interesting to see how these all play out. I mean, we get to enjoy them all, but we'll have to see.
One of the reasons we decided to start playing trailers for our viewers here is that when you see trailers, you get a sense of, they are the number one marketing tool the studios use to get people excited about coming to movies. And since we aren't going to the movies, we are not seeing the trailers of our colleagues and the movies they're working on. So that's why we've got 3 great trailers for you today. So stay tuned. And these are the most recent trailers the studios have provided us. But it's exciting when you look at it and realize these are such big productions. There's only one place you'd want to see them, and that's in a movie theater. So it feels like if we can get it. Now, we asked 2 weeks ago in our poll question, we asked our viewers when they thought movie theaters would be back open, and they said spring of 2021. So our viewers have been pretty right. We got another great question, by the way, for our viewers today, and it's going to involve live concerts and when you all think you'll be back at live concerts. And we've got really smart viewers, so we'll look forward to seeing what decision our viewers this morning have. So one final item, and that is Angela Tizzi, who serves on our board from ECN, said the 4 major broadcast networks viewership was down 36% the first week of the new TV season, which started September 21. So broadcast television down 36% in the first week of the TV season. Movie theaters on hold. Streaming must be way, way up. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm told that we are ready. So stay tuned. Remote control starts right now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Remote Control. I'm Jim Chabin from the AIS, and we're coming to you live this Thursday morning from Radiant Images in Los Angeles. And here with me is the chairman of AIS from Google Cloud, Buzz Hayes. Good morning, Buzz.
Good morning, Jim. Always great to see you. So COVID-19 has made it impossible for us to meet in person. So we've been gathering over the last few weeks here online. Our mission has been to help our community navigate toward remote work and to stay connected with creative people and the technology and the workflows that we rely on that will empower media and entertainment. With the generous support of Dell, NVIDIA, MeetMo, Computer Graphics World, and the NAB show, we have been thrilled with the response to these weekly 90-minute live programs. Your comments and questions in the chat window have helped us steer the questions to our guests and session materials as well. So let us know your thoughts in the chat. These sessions are all being recorded, so you can find them later on our YouTube channel, and you can also share them with your friends. A special shout out to the folks joining us live from inside and outside of Hollywood and around the world. We're thrilled to connect with you. We have 3 discussions today. Darin Grant, CTO of Animal Logic, will join us. Darin has served on the Visual Effects Society Technology Committee to create the white paper on working from home. With studios in Sydney and Vancouver, now back at work, Darin is going to explore how our colleagues are returning to the studio. Then we have an incredible discussion about some of the most talked about collaboration platforms being used right now. The idea of a cloud-based solution that enables even an iPhone to operate as an edit suite has gained great attention recently. Chuck Parker, CEO of Sohonet, joins us from Los Angeles. And Hugh, Calveley, founder of Moxion, joins us live from New Zealand. Also today, you're in for a treat. Right now, the team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory is preparing to land the Perseverance lander on Mars in February. The mission will be to search for life and pave the way for a human mission to the Red Planet. To manage all of this, JPL is incorporating amazing forms of visualization to help explorers work more effectively. This is the ultimate example of remote control, and we're thrilled to be joined today by Emmy Award winner Sasha Samochina from JPL. So before we get started, here's today's poll question. The poll just opened up, and you'll find it in the chat box right below on your screen. So when do you think audiences will again attend major music concerts? Is that A, March of 2021, B, July of 2021, C, March of 2022, or July of 2022? Please answer put your answers in the chat, and we'll talk about the results a little bit later. Jim, over to you.
Top Gun Maverick is the newest sequel to the original great Tom Cruise starred hit from 1986. As we mentioned, it's been moved out of the holidays into April 2021. Directed by Joseph Kosinski, starring Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly and John Hamm, here's the latest trailer from Top Gun Maverick.
Your instructor is one of the finest pilots this program has ever produced. His exploits are legendary. What he has to teach you may very well mean the difference between life and death.
Your reputation precedes you.
I have to admit, I wasn't expecting an invitation back.
They're called orders, Maverick.
This is your captain speaking. Today's exercise is dogfighting.
2 versus 1? He's got to be kidding. What the hell?
As many production centers in the US are struggling to get opened and running again, our friends in Australia and Canada are moving quickly to get back to normal. Darin Grant serves as CTO for Animal Logic, an industry leader in digital
He's not coming
production,
back to me.
visual effects, and animation. With offices in Sydney, Vancouver, and Los Angeles, Darin has an incredible perspective on where things stand right now. This session is 25 minutes. Please remember to ask questions in the chat and we'll talk about them later. So without further ado, please welcome Darin Grant. Darin, thanks for being here.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Darin Grant, and I'm the CTO at Animal Logic, and I'm here to talk about returning to the studio, which I did today. So now that I'm in a socially distanced closed meeting room, I'm going to take off my mask, still smiling. And yeah, let's begin. So, you can't tell the story about returning to the studio without first talking a little bit about how we got out of the studio. And I'm going to do that by talking about one of my other hats as a member of the VES Technology Subcommittee. And then I'll get to how Animal Logic has returned back to the studio. So a little bit about the Visual Effects Society Technology Committee. We're really established to establish best practices in order to collaborate more efficiently across our industry. All right, so what does that mean? You can look on the right-hand side. These are a number of the different documents, specifications that we've produced over the years. One of the most notable ones is the VFX reference platform. But today, I want to talk a little bit about this COVID-19 best practices doc and how it came to be. You can find out much more about the Technology Committee activities there, or there's an article about us in the upcoming VFX Voice magazine coming out in October. All right, so this is us. You'll recognize this as a bunch of CTOs across the industry because it's a bunch of old white dudes, with the exception of Barbara. This is not how we looked on our meeting at the beginning of March. In fact, we were all a little bit sad and despondent, as the world was, because we were trying to figure out just how to get everybody safely and effectively working from home. And on that call, we shared stories and we talked about, well, this is what we're doing here. We're using this thing for PCI over IP. We're doing this. We shared those stories in order to get everybody safely out of their offices sooner. And none of that stuff is proprietary. And that's actually kind of part of the reason to participate in something like the Visual Effects Technology Committee, Tech Committee, or also just to what the mission of the committee was. So after that meeting, March 8th, 5:31 a.m. for us, not from Calais, he's in London, he sent an email to all of us saying, hey, we're all doing this and we're all talking about this together. Is there anything that we should be doing as a tech committee to assist the community as a whole? And you know what, he was absolutely right. And so from March 8th, we got together and had a quick discussion about a few of the goals. So first, we'll share what we know. We represent a lot of the major studios, post-production visual effects and animation studios in the world, and have a lot of really amazing IT staff that work with us that had come up with a bunch of solutions. So sharing that with the rest of the world, none of it's proprietary. Second, we don't know everything, and we wanted to make sure that we had a way for other people to participate in this effort. And then the third thing was just, to prevent, there's Zoom bombing, there's things like that. We wanted to prevent trolling and marketing, just pure marketing things. And we also needed to do it soon. So the answer was this a Google Doc, right? A Google Doc with all of us as owners and an email address that people could send suggestions, changes to, so that it was moderated, that we put together, formatted, got a bunch of best practices from around the industry, and pulled that together and released that March 14th, right? Time was of the essence there. And there's a URL to that if you want to find out more. But so, I'll use that in order to switch to talk a little bit about how that affected us at Animal Logic. Yes, we shared what we knew, but we didn't know everything. And by having that other information and the confidence to move forward on different solutions, it allowed us to do other things. It allows, this is a beautiful piece of material that was put together by our IT support team in order to help make it clear and easy to understand how to be able to work from home effectively, with general guidelines on the left, with the different workflows for connecting on the right. Blurred out some of the things that are private. But really, by sharing information, it allowed everybody in the industry to do a little bit more effort to make it a safe and sane transition. But I'm not here to talk about that today. I'm here to talk about how we actually went from there to actually returning to the studio. A little bit about Animal Logic first. Animal Logic is an independent animation and visual effects studio. We've been around for over 29 years, based in Sydney. We opened our Vancouver office, just a little over 5 years ago. We have a small office here in Los Angeles. Those are just a few of the films that we've worked on over the years. Just a few of the films that we worked on over the years. But you'll notice that the main things are that our main offices are in Sydney and Vancouver. So the first question that somebody maybe ask, somebody making a presentation about returning to the studio, is why go back now? And there's two main reasons here. First is that we believe that there's inherent value in people collaborating in a shared workspace. And there's something hard to capture about that. But when you're all here, sorry about that. When you're all in the office together, it's easy to communicate, and we have all these other text and device communications, but it's just easy to turn your head and ask a question. Wow. In order to ask a question, cough on somebody, in order to feel the energy of everybody working together, see artwork on the walls and be inspired by that. That's all really important. And we think that is what contributes to making us a special place. Hold on one second. All right. I've been tested. The other thing is that our offices are primarily in British Columbia and New South Wales, Sydney. And as you'll see, this is from a couple of days ago. The cases there are not anything like they're in Los Angeles or in the rest of the United States. British Columbia is averaging about 80 cases a day now, I think. And then over the last week in New South Wales, there hasn't been a single new case. So it's time to start thinking about getting back to the office. The other thing to acknowledge is that work from home doesn't actually work for everyone. And so this is an Instagram feed of a friend of mine, works in another studio, and every day he's posted a new phrase. First, day 5, things seemed remotely possible because he was working from home effectively. By day 172, it feels like he's just working all the damn time. And then finally, day 189. I think we're on day 206 now in Los Angeles. How do I quarantine my feelings? It's all challenging, right? It can be challenging to be isolated, to be lonely, to not have that connection to people. So with that prompted us to think about a cautious and empathetic return. And that's really something that's, I've only been in Animal Logic for 2 years. It's something that I've really seen and valued as a core tenet of the company, but I really saw it from our leadership team here through this process. First and most obvious, always checking reported cases and government guidelines. As you see, I have those links. We talk about them weekly. It was 3 times a week when it started. And we're trying to make sure that we're exceeding every single guideline that's been set by the government. Right? And then reviewing and responding to changes in case averages. As we saw things not necessarily dropping or having small spikes in different areas, we backed off on the plans to come back to the office. Second is compassionate exemptions. It's people with immunodeficiencies, people living with high-risk individuals like their parents or other people with immunodeficiencies. Public transportation, that was a pretty big, scary thing. And we, our offices are in 2 really great cities where they're in the heart of the city. So public transportation was really something key for a lot of our team members. And then finally, when everybody was forced to homeschool, it's not the case in Sydney or Vancouver anymore, having exemptions for parents of people who were distant learning children. And then the last exemption that we had is a general exemption. It's honestly fear. Like, who wants to be fearful going into the office? That's not going to produce the best work. And so if somebody was fearful, rational or irrational, we said, look, stay at home. We want you to be productive, and it's safe, and that's the most important thing. But in order to try and overcome that fear, the idea here was that we really had to provide an environment that was as safe or safer than you could have in the home environment. And so I'll talk a little bit about a bunch of the things that we've done along those lines in order to make our studios safe. I'll start out. This is going to be some running content in the background here. That's our amazing COO, Sharon Taylor. Not actually physically in both Sydney and Vancouver. One of them's virtual, but those are the orientation videos that we recorded for getting people back in the studio, giving them the guidelines and rules. You can see in the Sydney one, that big stick is a 1.5 meter tall stick that she would use in order to measure everything to make sure we were safe and social distanced, whether it was through hallways or desk setups or whatever. So we actually this was actually published and released in June of 2020. We did all this work in order to make the studio safe to return to in June. First, getting in, I think anybody's been used to this idea of temperature checks and things like that. We also have a very strict schedule. Like, you need to tell us when you're coming in, and then we monitor whether you've actually come in or not. That's so important for contact tracing, and it's also important for capacity planning. We've been trying to make sure that whatever the government rule guidelines are, we're way below that in terms of what the capacity was during times of uncertainty. So you could come in, but we were trying to make sure that not everybody came in at once. And then there was tons of signage around in terms of compliance and asking these questions before you even come in the studio. And then actually, as things went on, we were able to develop new tools and technologies. This is an app that we use from our partners to do our guest login, guest sign-in Envoy. And we've been able to make an app so that people could, not rather than a guest, but an actual employee, can go through and do all the questions and answer the questions that they need to as they decide to enter the office. And that's an easy check-in and check-out for us to be able to keep track of people who are in the office in our capacities. The next thing is just cleaning. Obviously, we increased the frequency of overnight cleaning more than what we'd had in the past. And then we actually added additional staff to basically go around all day long during the workday and clean any high-touch areas, doorknobs, things in the kitchen, things like that. We also have these hand sanding and wipe kiosks available all over the place. You can see some of them in the videos on the screen to the right. Social distancing, a lot of hallways are not wider than 1.5 meters. It's 1.5 to 2 meters are the regulations in these different countries. We've made some of them that don't allow for that. So you can see in the picture there, we've had to do some one-way hallways. Limited capacity in our conference rooms and theaters. You can see the signs on the theater seats saying don't come in. You can see 19 people allowed in that theater when it used to be able to seat many more. Coffee and tea queues. It used to be a really nice social gathering place, that kitchen that Eric is in right now. In order for people to come in and have coffee, communicate with others, we have this queued line thing like you're experiencing at many stores now. Our IT support teams, actually our general support teams, wear PPE when they're doing interactions and doing equipment delivery because they interact with so many people. And then finally, it's good news, temporarily, we had to close our showers and our gyms. And we're just looking to open those back up. The last thing here was catering. You know, we are a very environmentally cautious company, but we had to default back to disposable utensils and cups. And individually wrapped biscuits and things like that. That's pains us, but so we've tried to do things in order to make up for that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We also had to do things that you wouldn't think about. Peelable fruit only. That way, people aren't like trying to scrub and sanitize every apple that they have. We've got bananas and oranges there, and then unfortunately, we have this great tradition of having buffet lunches weekly or bi-weekly. Within both of the studios, and we had to pull back on that for obvious reasons. We replaced them actually with some great, actually healthier options in terms of microwavable meals though. So and sometimes there's some silver linings. All right, but safety isn't enough, right? Fear isn't just about safety. There's a bunch of other things that we had to do. First, transportation, what a hassle, right? There's still some people that needed to use public transport. And so we started considering and allowing for staggered start time to allow people to avoid those high traffic periods on busing, I think, or trains or things like that. Parking spots are always a challenge in central city locations. And so we've developed different programs. We had parking spots assigned to certain people. When they're not there, we lottery them off. We switch them around to make sure we get as many people being able to park close to the studio because of this increased personal vehicle use as a result of not only the lack of public transport, but also a lack of showers means that not that many people are biking into work as they used to. And then finally, obviously, it's been really hard to get foreign nationals in to work on our great films in both the Vancouver and Sydney offices. So we've had to do a bunch of adjustments to start dates and how we're getting people on board. Something that was really key, and I would highly recommend it, is just constant communication. Communication can be, it can feel important to begin with, and it can wane over time. It's important to keep up. It's important for people to know that there's going to be that email every week or bi-weekly. There's going to be that communication point so that they don't have to worry about what the studio is deciding. We're keeping them abreast along the way. So we have weekly updates from management about the current state of affairs, about cases and what we're planning to do as a studio. We have a completely anonymous executive Q&A channel where people can submit questions and we answer every single one of those questions, whether it's about COVID-19 and concerns or other things. And then finally, actually, we have one later today, we're doing, in addition to all that stuff, live executive Q&A sessions where all of us, the CTO, CEO, COO, are all answering any questions that come in live so that everybody can hear and see those answers live as well. We've done other things to maximize the value of this return to studio. We've been coordinating attendance so that rather than just come in a few days a week, this department is coming in as a whole because that value, that value of being in the buzz of things, it's just because I see buzz there, that value of being in the buzz of things is really about departments. That doesn't work for everybody. We have people that work across multiple departments, but that's been really helpful. And then lastly, just being thoughtful and mindful of some of the other things that you can do, right? So we had great catering and great meal options at the studios. And when people were at home, we didn't have that. What could we do? We gave people Uber Eats credits while they were in lockdown in order to allow them to have some of that same shared experience, encourage them to have lunch online with their team members. Actually, for a period of time, we actually even had our catering staff working and making meals to deliver to the homeless so that there was some good coming out of all of this. The other thing, as I mentioned, we hate waste. We're a very environmentally conscious company. And so while we have tons of paper masks available for people if they forget theirs, we've also offered reimbursements for anybody buying a cloth mask. We've also done some other things in terms of heightening our IT support's response time for any work from home issues, because you're feeling isolated already. You can't even connect to work. That's an immediate issue when we jump on those as an IT support team. I'm very proud of the team for that. And then finally, one of the things, much like this conference that you're all looking at today from the comfort of your homes or your studios, because we don't have to travel people and the great expense of business travel to go into attending conferences, but we've taken that money and we've expanded attendance to virtual conferences. We've allowed many more people to come to SIGGRAPH. We gave like 200 people tickets to go see the electronic theater this year there. Thoughtful, just taking a step back of can't do that, taking a step back to figure out what can you do. And honestly, some things are better. We utilized the fact that the studios were closed down for a while to do a lot of studio improvements. We upgraded our video conferencing platforms in all of our meeting rooms to be Microsoft Teams. And there's some amazing technology coming out from the Teams product regarding contactless meeting starts in meeting rooms, so that any of these high traffic areas you can still use in a safe way. We've actually planned a bunch of upgrades to those theaters while they're less occupied. We've improved a bunch of workflows. Obviously, a lot of workflows that may have been paper-based just because that's the way it always was, certainly have gone out the window, and we've transitioned to a lot of purely digitized workflows. Great advantage of cross-site collaboration tools, not just chat, but every single kind of collaboration you can think of. And then, one thing that's maybe not evident to other people, it's evident to me every day, we have a very small window of time of business hour overlap between Sydney and Vancouver. By not forcing people to commute, not forcing people to do that aspect, we've actually been able to have a lot more time of overlap. People in Sydney are starting meetings at 7 a.m. and ending early. People in Vancouver doing late and adjusting so that we can have that connection even though we can't physically be together. And then I got to say this, the gratitude that's happened as a part of us having this approach to the studio has been really amazing. The empathy to your fellow employee has been great because we're all going through this together. Everybody's feeling it. Everybody's seeing the efforts from all parts, and so there's really been a great amount of empathy towards each other. And then being the CTO, the IT team usually gets the short end of the stick. Like, you only think about them or call them up when something's broken. And this was an opportunity for those teams to really be the heroes, recognized as the heroes that they always are. So that was pretty awesome. Almost done. Just to talk about what our measured return was. So as I mentioned, by June, we had the studio up and running and ready to go. And we had completely voluntary. If you want to come in, feel free to come in to avoid those people going insane working at home. And then a month later, we started to encourage for certain roles, key leadership roles, where they needed to be able to communicate with each other more effectively. In August, we encouraged, and this is encouraged, but not required for all roles. And then in September, we started encouraging more part-time work for all roles. And then ongoing, we're going to continue to monitor the case levels for each location, probably splitting, because as you saw, Sydney was 0. That 0 is a lot different than 80 a day. And so probably splitting our approach based on the studios. Last points. So lessons learned. First, from that discussion about work from home, not just the VES Tech Committee, but I know our internal efforts at Animalogic. Mission-based leadership in a crisis, really pointing people to saying, this is important. We're trying to get everybody safe and sound and working functionally from home. Really brought people together to accomplish something in a short period of time. And then we kind of took a different approach for return to studio. Considered, measured, slow, and really empathic leadership in the aftermath of a crisis like COVID-19, or the initial lockdowns. And then, so there's work from home, and I'm talking about return to studio, but the real interesting lesson here is that balance is the best. I started this presentation by saying that we believe that there's inherent value in people collaborating in a shared workspace. But this experience has actually clarified that there's a real value in that balance between working in the studio and having that, and then the flexibility of working from home and what that can allow So that's my pitch. You're all awesome. I guess I'm ready to take questions now.
That's great. Darin, thank you so much. Last week we had a presentation on Safety Viz, which was a pre-visualization tool from Digital Film Tree that they built in conjunction with the ETC to figure out on the production side, how best to be safe during these periods, and also figure out what those essential services are. I think there's a lot of, as you mentioned, you're kind of reevaluating in some levels what essential services there are in terms of those things that have to be in-house, right? And I'm curious, it's hard to say. People always ask, in fact, there's even a question in here about when you're going back to work. Well, I don't think any of us really know the answer to that one, unless you have a crystal ball. But one of the things I'm curious about is how, now that you've adapted to working COVID and you are doing this sort of mission-based approach to communication and other things, how is that changing the landscape post-COVID for you? Are you making decisions now as a company that will transform what Animal Logic looks like when we're out of the woods on COVID?
Yeah, that's a great question. Good to see you, Buzz. It's been a while. I'll say, we already, to be honest, we already had some plans to do some things that would enable this more effectively. I've personally charged the team with being able to, not necessarily having to do it, being able to push our studio to be all cloud native by the end of 2023. And when you do those things and think about your infrastructure that way, it already starts to change how you're thinking about how you're approaching new projects, which kind of suits what we've been going through, right? So, funny enough, it's been easier for people, I think, to participate in a bunch of live video conferences and things like that from home, where they don't have all the same firewall perimeters and things like that we have in the office. But how do we make sure that we maintain that security, but allow that flexibility as well? It's been a real hot topic for us. I think we've been very fortunate to have some really amazing partners at the studio side that were empathetic to what everybody was going through and wanted to make sure that we were still productive. But it's our responsibility to figure out how to make this work with increased and continued security, the same amount of security that we'd have on premise, with having this flexibility to have people working from home.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Now, the other thing I'm curious about moving forward post-COVID is with the move towards cloud, and a lot of people are aiming in that direction, probably sooner than they originally planned. That can fundamentally transform companies like yours, right? Where there's an enormous hardware infrastructure that makes these things work. And as that stuff slowly migrates to cloud, it kind of changes some of the fundamentals about the business, because it really is about, as you know, visual effects is about the talent. It's not about the hardware, right? And so have you put any thought into what that's going to look like in terms of how your company can grow and take on different and more projects when you don't have to worry about the infrastructure side of things post-COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the, because it is all about people, our company motto is great work with great people. It's not great work with great people with great hardware. And it is all about people for us. I think the piece that's really interesting is that the goals and approaches, like just to optimize how people can work, that doesn't change, right? It just really, what does change is some of the flexibility and choices there, right? So, I know you work at Google in the Emmy area, and there's been a lot of work. There's been a lot of presentations from some of your patriots over the years about how to scale the compute power that's available to somebody working interactively, right? And that's a really interesting idea of, we've been in this because hardware is expensive and desktop machine is expensive. Like whatever you can do on this single desktop machine is what we're expecting, is the pace that we're expecting to work at. But what if you can change what that hardware is? What if you can change what that machine is? That as we, as much as anybody, took great advantage of the idea of using PC over IP. during this time period. That meant that everybody's, for I think most people might be familiar with it, or maybe some of the product names like Teradici or HP Remote Graphics. What it allows you to do is from any machine get access to that machine, and you're basically it's almost a software KVM, keyboard video mouse, that you have. The beauty of that is now that our infrastructure and environment is set up for that, those machines, it's kind of creepy when nobody's in the office. It's this ghost town of desktops sitting at desks and mouses moving all over them. It's like it's inhabited by a bunch of ghosts, but everybody's just working safely at home. There's no reason for those machines to be physically there anymore. There are pieces, there's challenges, right? Like, why are they there? Well, because the storage and the render is there. So we have to figure out how to migrate that, or at least mirror that effectively in order to start some of those transitions. But the idea of what can you do when you can give somebody much more compute power in a short window of time to make sure that they are doing interactive workflows even more effectively than you could, no matter what you did to optimize your renderer, that's super interesting, and it's an area that we're exploring now. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everything you guys do, because you've been at the forefront of not only the creative aspects, and some of the best visual effects work in the world comes from Animal Logic, but also just the way you get there, and the way the people are treated, and the way they get to work together. And my personal mantra in life, and hopefully you'll join me in this mantra, is that we want to eliminate progress bars so people can be creative when they're sitting there and not be tasked with the burden of waiting for things to happen. Because as you know, the creative spark, can live for a very short period of time sometimes. So we need to stoke that one.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about this idea of flow, and that creative flow, kind of what you're talking about, like not getting pulled out of the moment to, and that's super important. It's super important. It's something that we were just actually talking about earlier this week of, look, it's not about eliminating we're talking about creative flow. It doesn't have to be laminar flow. That's a little fluid dynamics geek off. It doesn't have to be perfectly laminar flow. There can be interruptions there because we're humans. Like, we need to take breaks. But if you're but start to optimize it so it's like a 30-second interruption every 5 minutes is really distracting, versus a 5-minute 5-minute interruption every 5 hours, or every 3 hours, or every hour, right? That's actually positive. We need that time to charge and stand up and stretch and do whatever we need to do. So starting to think about how you make your pipeline, how you make your workflow more efficient, but more efficient for humans, is something that we have just started talking about. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to the day when an artist takes a break because they feel like they need a break, rather than because something stopped working. So that's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you being here today, Darin. It means the world to us all here. And thank you for what you're doing too as a company. I mean, and all the work you're doing at VES. That's really important. Hopefully people are listening and watching. People have asked in the chat if they can have links to some of this information. So thank you again for everything you do and all you're sharing with the world. And again, thanks for being here today. And please give my best to Barbara.
All right. Thanks. Thank you, Buzz. Yeah, it's good to see you too. And thank you for putting this together.
Sure thing. Jim, what do we got up next?
Thanks, guys. Buzz and Darin, that was amazing and really important for us to know about. So thank you both. While you guys have been talking, I've had a chance to check the chat window, and I just want to say, keep the comments coming. It's great to be reading you. We can't respond in real time. I can't, because I don't have a keyboard, but it's fun to read your comments. But Toronto, Vancouver, London, India, LA Arts District, Dallas, San Francisco, Israel, Santa Fe, Vancouver, Florida, Santiago, Chile, New Mexico, Old Mexico, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Minneapolis, and other media folks coming into us. Got a great comment from someone in Glasgow, Scotland. Hello, Glasgow. And they say, these sessions are superb. Would be great if you can keep these up. If you'd like to see more of these kinds of programs, they're made possible by our sponsors, Dell and NVIDIA. So please let us know in the chat, because we take those comments, and I promise you the people at Dell look. And if you like what you see, or you want to see something, they are listening, and they're really impressed that you're all joining from all of your interesting locations. Now, who doesn't need a laugh right now? Ryan Reynolds is promising to deliver one for the Christmas holidays. Free Guy stars Reynolds in this Fox Disney film co-produced by Reynolds and director Sean Levy. Originally planned for this past July, it's now scheduled just in time for all of us to say goodbye to 2020. Here is Free Guy.
Good morning, Goldie. My name is Guy, and I live in Free City. I have everything I need. Except one thing. Hey! Excuse me. Hey! Hey, bud, you ever think that there's got to be more?
More than what?
The stuff we do day after day.
Literally not once.
Today's gonna be different, Goldie. What are we looking at?
Who are you?
We ran into each other the other day.
How did you find me?
I waited outside by the murder train.
Guy, I have to tell you something. There is no easy way to say this. This world, it's a video game.
I really want to kiss you. Is that weird?
Listen to me. You're not real.
Wait, you let who kiss you?
Guy.
There's not a button for that.
Oh, he found the button.
Buddy, if we're not real, doesn't that mean that nothing you do matters?
I am sitting here with my best friend trying to help him get through a tough time. Now, if that's not real, I don't know what is.
Millie, I know this world is just a game, but this place, these people, that's all I have.
Thanks, Guy.
Who is this guy?
This character in the video game Free City has been turning heads by being the good guy.
Who is blue shirt guy?
You're absolutely right. Who is he or she, indeed?
This loser is ruining the game, man. I don't care if he's Arnold freaking Schwarzenegger. Terminate him.
We're doing great.
Guy, in 2 days, the game is gonna shut down. You, this whole city, they'll be gone.
What if we can save it? Was that cool? It felt really cool. We can change our world, but we have to fight together. I don't even know what's happening right now, but I love it! This is the first time I've ever driven a car before.
I really wish you'd mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love you, blue shirt guy!
Thank you! Watch out for the... They seem nice.
Can't wait to see that one. Thank you for sharing that with us, Jim. Now we're going to talk about some real-time solutions. You know, real-time solutions for remote collaboration have been in development in the film industry even before the pandemic arrived. But the idea of cloud-based platforms enabling an iPhone, for example, to operate as an editing suite has gained even greater urgency with COVID-19. To get the latest, we have gotten two of our industry's leading innovators on the subject. We are grateful to have them here live from Auckland, New Zealand, and from Los Angeles. Again, please send us questions in the chat window so we can get to them and get them to our guests after the session. The session is 25 minutes long. Please welcome from Los Angeles, Sohonet's Chuck Parker, and from Auckland, the founder of Moxion, Hugh Calveley. Welcome.
Good afternoon to our colleagues in North America. Good morning to those in Australia, New Zealand, and of course, good evening to our European industry colleagues. We're here today to give you some insight into what we believe is the cutting edge of accelerated workflows for production and post-production for the film and TV industry. Sohonet and Moxion announced a partnership in June designed to improve our combined capability to provide an integrated and accelerated workflow to our customers. In that partnership, we're providing Clearview for the real-time video streaming collaboration for up to 30 viewers. It's frame accurate, color accurate, anywhere in the world with sub 100 millisecond latency. While Moxion has Immediates, which is providing near real-time collaboration with integrations directly into the video assist market leader QTake, so that customers can move metadata and rich shots from set back to post in VFX workflows and back to set again within mere minutes. And today we're going to try and give you a glimpse of that powerful combination. Just to set out the scene for our demonstration, there are actually 4 of us who are playing 5 roles. Hugh and Michael are joining us today from 2 different locations in New Zealand. Michael is our features editor, and Hugh is going to play both the narrator and second unit video assist. And then Andy and I are both joining from different locations in Los Angeles, where Andy is the on-set DIT video assist. I'm the first unit director. If you don't know Sohonet, we've been supporting remote calibration in our industry for about 25 years, starting with a global private network and most recently with Clearview. Hugh, can you give our audience an introduction to Moxion and then help them orient the viewers to our workflow?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chuck, and thanks to AIS very much. Very excited to be on this panel. So at Moxion, over the last 5 years, we've focused on improving the efficiency of productions to really dramatically reduce the time it takes for people to access the footage they need to do their jobs. And this could be footage which is coming from set or footage generated by post-production. And Chuck and I are here presenting together because our 2 systems complement each other really well. His Sohonet Clearview live stream system allows people to respond and feedback in real time, whereas with our system, you don't need to be live to review. And I think the best way to illustrate just how powerful our systems are, especially in these times of remote production and social distancing, is just to show you. So to that point, we've got several teams standing by around the world to do just that. But first, I'll just share my screen and I'll show you a workflow of what we're going to do. And I hope you can all see that. So we have at point 1, we have a main unit in LA, and that has a camera on the set and is attached to a Q-Take video assist, which is going to be creating proxy footage of what the camera records in real time. And then from there, it's going to send it up to the Moxion cloud, where it can be viewed within about 90 seconds or so on any browser or iOS device, including Apple TV. And also, if the editor wants to have a look at that, we can transcode it into an Avid-friendly format, the DNX format, and the editor, which is sitting at 0.5 in New Zealand, can grab that footage, bring it down and drop it into an edit. And then what's going to happen is Michael, the editor, is going to connect through to the Sohonet cloud, and he's going to do a live stream of that edit, and he's going to have the first unit director review that footage. And when that footage is signed off, he's then going to send that footage back up to the Moxion cloud over here at point 4, and that's going to be sent directly back down to the Q-Take on the second unit for the director to see that in the context of what was just shot 10 minutes ago on the first unit. So let's get this started. I'm going to hand it over to Andy, who is doing a couple of roles. He's going to be the talent and the video assist on main unit. Andy, are you good to go?
Yes, I am here. Thanks. So I've got a very pared back video assist rig, which is mostly the Q-Take video assist software on my laptop, and I'm going to start recording a take. Pardon me. I'll start recording a take now and mark an endpoint for action. And there we go. And I'll do another take on that roll. There we are. And then I'll stop recording this take and hand you back over to you.
Right. So I'm just going to share the screen again, and I will show you. So Andy has just recorded a take on the Q-Take, and right now, as I speak, that's being sent up to the Moxion cloud in Western North America, and is being processed, and is going to be made available to Michael, the editor, to jump on his browser, review it, and if it's something useful, he can then bring it down and drop it into the edit. So what I'll do is I'll hand you over to Michael to show you how he's going. Michael, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sound good.
Brilliant. Great. So I'm just going to jump into my Moxion browser. So as Hugh mentioned, I'm currently working on the scene that's being shot around the world. I'm editorial department in Auckland in one location. There is main unit shooting in Los Angeles, and there's another second unit shooting in Auckland in another location. So the directors told me that there's some shots coming in. So I'm monitoring inside the Moxion browser, and I can see here that there's a shot that's come in. So I'll just reload that, and I can see that there's a clip that's come in from Andy here.
Can you share your screen, Michael?
I am sharing my screen, sorry. Let me just go back to here. There we go, sorry about that, apologies. So just to cover that off again, this is inside the Moxion app, so I can see that a clip has just come in. So we'll just have a look at that, open it up. Looks pretty interesting, and I think it's just what the director's been talking about. So I'll play that down. I can see on the bottom of the timeline here that there's 2 blue in and out points. So that means that's the action that was marked in and out from set. So I'll just watch that down. Great, that's looking exactly like the director is after. So what I can do, Moxion has transcoded this into an Avid ready format. So I can just download that, hit download asset, and it'll allow me to choose an MXF, which I can drop in to my timeline. So for time constraints, I've already done this. So I'll just jump into my Avid. Oops, I haven't started up Avid. So Hugh, would you mind just having a chat about that process?
Yeah, sure.
Start up
So while Michael boots up Avid, what's happening is he'll bring that down, and obviously he'll drop it into the edit, and also what he can do is he will do a live stream with Chuck, the director, who's back on the main unit. So Chuck can see in the context of the edit what he just shot minutes ago, and he can tweak that edit, adjust it, and then when he's happy with it, as I mentioned before, Michael's going to output that edit, send it back up to the cloud to Moxion, and then that will be sent back to the second unit so that they can see exactly in context of what was shot main unit, the pickups that they're now shooting. How's that going, Michael? How's Avid loading? There we go.
So apologies for the technical difficulties here, audience. Unfortunately, when we switched rooms, things kind of created a quick technical challenge that we're dealing with in real time. It wouldn't be a live demo if you didn't see this stuff. So
I was joking with Chuck. We're actually doing like 2 lives. We're live and we're doing something live. So it's like, children and animals almost.
Almost.
Yeah. It looks like Michael has Avid up. Great, and I'm suspecting what's happened is Avid might have taken over Michael's sound.
Yeah.
Which is
Here we go.
There it is.
Avid likes it is very microphone-ish. So there we go. Apologies for that. So I've opened up Avid. I've got this clip that's been ingested in. I've just dropped it into my media files folder. It's created an EMDB and I've DB dragged it in. This is the source that's just been recorded. I've cut it into this timeline because this is what we're currently working on. Great, cool, that's looking really good. So that's exactly what the director's after. So I think I've got it in pretty good shape, but what I want to do is share my screen, my editorial screen with the director. So I'm going to jump into Clearview, which is here. I'm going to start the stream. Chuck, do you want to talk about what's happening here while I see you?
Sure. So for the audience sake, imagine that we're on obviously this MeetMo.io app, which is similar to BlueJeans or Microsoft Teams, and it's what we would describe as a screen sharing system, right? It's built on a combination of WebRTC and OBS. However, when you do that, it is it is incredibly difficult to get frame accuracy and color accuracy. So what Michael's about to show you in Flex is the ability for you to have an SDI or HDMI input and to have a frame accurate, color accurate output. He's going to ping me a quick email. I'm going to pull my iPad out and show you guys a live session. And we can actually have an over-the-shoulder editing experience, meaning I am directing him on the cut, just like you would if you were in the edit suite. He's going to make the cut, and when he's done, he can then use Moxion to send it back to set. So Michael, why don't you pull up again, and Michael sent me the invite.
Jumping back in Avid now. So.
Okay. So let me show you real quick. So the invites come to my my iPad that you guys can see. Okay. I'm going to click join session. I'm going to give you a little bit of my over-the-shoulder experience here. And you can see now I'm seeing exactly what he has on screen. So go ahead, Michael, and show me the clip.
Here we go, playing down.
That's great. I tell you what, though, Michael, the transition on that cut is probably 2 or 3 frames. Can you cut just a little bit back out and show it to me again?
I can. Sure, here we go. Let's just remove that back a little bit. And playing down.
Perfect. Let's just see. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and send that back to the other unit so they can look at it and make sure they're happy with how that integrates, so they can finish their pickups and hopefully pack up the chute and at least get one of our units off the travel cost.
Will do. So I'll just mark some in and outs on here, export it. Again, due to time constraints, I've already done this. I'll just jump back into Moxion. And here's the clip here. So just play that down, make sure it's exactly what we're
on a tidal wave of terror to wreak vengeance on mankind.
Brilliant. That's exactly what we're after. So I'll just jump in here, hit send to QTake. It's currently got all the connected QTake rigs around the world. I'm going to send it back to Hugh. That's what I want to send it to. Hit next. I'll just type in a note, check this out, and hit send. I can see in here it is heading off to him. So Hugh, do you want to grab the screen and show what's happening on your end?
Absolutely, yeah. So what's happened here is Michael has edited that footage together and he's uploaded it to Moxion, and then he's from there sent it back to set. So not back to the main unit where it was shot, where the footage he edited with was shot, but back to the second unit, which is where I am, and back to the video assist there, so that he'll get a message on his QTake video assist, and it will allow him to open up that clip and play it back on set. So what I'll do is I'll just jump to my QTake video assist here, and you can see that I have actually 2 messages for me. So I'm on set, and Michael sent me a check this out. I'll load that clip, and I can see here's the video. So what I can do is I can bring over the second unit director or the DP, and I can play it back for them on their screen. So let's just have a little recap of what we've seen. So in LA, they shot a couple of clips, and that went directly from QTake up to the Moxion cloud at 0.4, and then that was downloaded by Michael, the editor on the other side of the world in New Zealand, dropped into an edit, and then he connected a live stream using Sohonet back to the main unit director, who tweaked the edit, and then when he was happy with it, Michael uploaded that edit back to the Moxion cloud, who then sent that back to the second unit QTake video assist, and the second unit director could see what he needed to pick up in the context of the actual edit. So all this, I mean, I know we accelerated some of the upload and download, but in real life, the whole thing, the whole turnaround from main unit LA, edited in New Zealand, back to a second unit in New Zealand would be less than half an hour. So
and that's an accelerated workflow.
Yeah.
Why don't we just take a quick minute, Hugh, and just talk about use cases that we see in the industry that are interesting. As an example, when I think about maybe the most interesting recent developments, since productions are coming back in our industry with momentum, which is great. The biggest thing we've seen at Sohonet is the onset application of Clearview, meaning how do my offset creative participants participate, right? Typically, that's somebody like the executive producer who can't get to set anymore because there's a limited number of people who are allowed in the A zone. We're seeing people use, or productions use Flex to ensure that they can have wide participation. And that is sometimes from people who are just down the street. Maybe you have different zones or pods set up so people can be socially distanced. And sometimes, of course, it's like the executive producer or the editor in this example, where they're back either in Burbank or in London or New York or wherever they're actually from, because our productions are so spread out these days. Hugh, anything you want to share?
Yeah, the really neat thing about what happens is when you put these tools into people's hands is that they find the most amazing uses for them. An example that I've spoken about a couple of times is a Russell Crowe shoot called Unhinged, and we found on that their ability to access the footage quickly using the immediates cut their big car chase sequence, or their time for that, the days allocated for that, in half by referencing the footage in the notes. So what was happening is they'd do their run, and normally they'd have to park their cars, reset, park their cars, get out, walk over to the video village and get notes. But instead what they were doing is they were referencing the footage of their run as they were resetting along with the notes. So that cut their allocated shoot days for that car chase sequence into half.
And just to close on use cases, something else that we've seen interesting as of late is really the finishing side. If you can imagine pre-pandemic, you were trying to finish a feature or an episodic series, you're going to get a bunch of people in a dark room, typically on a production lot here in LA, and you're going to watch, maybe 25 people in the theater. You're going to have all those creative people try to make the final decisions about exactly the final cut, sound, audio, video, everything. And again, everyone's challenged. We've seen Flex do a pretty good job of being combined with its bigger sibling Pivot, where we can push cinema quality video direct to multiple theaters at the same time. And for those people who can't get to a theater because of social distancing or travel, we can push a parallel signal to the Flex operating system so they can see on their Apple TV and participate at the highest fidelity possible in their home viewing environment, so that everybody who's in that creative decision process can have confidence before they finally send that episode or that scene back to the studio for final review.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing a similar thing too, because we can also be used in an HDR capacity with Dolby Vision, that a lot of people who want to distribute like a color grade for review, as you mentioned, the most important thing is that they have that surety of knowing that the people who are giving feedback are watching the same image as the original grade. So, and that works really well with your live view is using us. What they can do is they can see that and they can make notes on it, and then they can jump onto a live stream and go through those notes.
Great. Just before we hit the Q&A, we thought we'd take a minute just to give sort of a prediction or prognostication of what Hugh and I think is going to happen in this part of the industry maybe the next 12 or 18 months. For me, for Sohonet, I see three big things coming in the future, in the immediate future. One is further integration of the human side of collaboration. What we're seeing in the industry today is, and I know second screen was a dirty word from 2015, 2016 timeframe, but we are seeing that come back. Meaning, I'm a professional video creator, and I am watching something on my laptop, my iPad, my Apple TV, some sort of video device where I'm really worried about how strong the pixels are. but I don't want to consume the resources on that device to do the human conferencing like we're doing right now. So we're seeing a second screen, a tablet that's running Microsoft Teams or Zoom. Every big company, every production has their own view. Sometimes it's just, plain old Google Meet Me. The second big piece we're seeing is cloud. No surprise. While the world is trying to figure out how to run the cloud, the economics are still holding us back a bit. We're actually seeing more activity happening in what we describe as virtualization. So meaning I have a post house or a visual effects house, and I'm virtualizing my creative tool sets in my own machine room, in my own data center, because it's already my CapEx and I'm already sweating that CapEx. So making sure we can solve that problem as the journey to the cloud for the industry happens is incredibly important. And of course, the last piece is just the scaling integration. This world has changed dramatically. In the beginning of when the pandemic started, we would have had maybe 3 or 5 viewers on a remote collaboration session in real time from around the world for about 75 minutes. A typical session now is 15 or 20 people for 7 or 8 hours, right? This has replaced the editing room because of the travel constraints and social distancing, et cetera. But we're seeing that stick even where locations are able to get back physically in person. We're just seeing more separation in units. And so that longer term, what we all describe as Zoom fatigue is a thing. And so continuing to improve that integration with all the various tools, whether that's, creative tools like Avid or Resolve, or of course, great tools like our partners, Moxion. Hugh?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was Niels Bohr that said prediction is very difficult, especially if it's about the future. But I certainly think that coming out of COVID, filmmaking is going to be forever changed. And I think that the side effect of people now having the tools to do their job remotely is that they'll be much more efficient. Like, for example, say you're an art director, if you don't have to spend all this time on a plane flying to set, you'll probably be able to multitask across several productions. And I think that also post and production, they're already intertwined, but I think they'll become even more so after COVID. And the tools that we're creating with Chuck and I to help people work under COVID will enable production to talk, share, and feedback in real time as they're creating increasingly. And this is going to dramatically increase the speed of innovation. And by this, I mean it will prevent people having to wait so much, because a key part of keeping an artist fluid and creative is giving them the ability to look at immediate feedback and make a decision and keep going. And the value of keeping this creativity alive, it can be hard to quantify in terms of dollar terms, but it shows on the screen with better pictures and better stories, which is ultimately, I think, why we're all here.
Absolutely.
That's
So
great.
I think it's time for Q&A.
Yes, indeed. So thank you. That was enlightening and amazing. We're getting comments here that this was the best informative innovation demo ever. So kudos to the team. So again, we're talking about collaboration. That's the key to everything. And it's something that as an industry we've been talking about. Well, actually, we've been taking for granted, I guess, pre-COVID, right? Because I was talking to a DP the other week about what it feels like to be trying to work remotely. And what he was saying was he missed the opportunity to tug on someone's shirt sleeve and say, what if we move the key light over this way a little bit, and maybe we flag this off, and, we create a little bit more of a mood in the shot. And he said he missed that kind of opportunity right now where decisions and collaboration happen in the moment, and we're still a ways away from that. But connectivity is everything, right? And as you mentioned, I mean, even pre-COVID, we were having situations where certain directors were doing full color on set. So they had a whole unit bringing stuff in, which was then completely divorced from the outside world. It had to be kind of done in isolation, and then getting files back and forth was kind of an issue. So you folks have really sort of addressed that in a big way. Do you see, now that COVID has sort of really given us a lot of uncertainty about how we're going to get back to this, as Gary Radburn likes to say, the next normal, how do you see this will transform once we get to a fully cloud-based workflow? Because I know a lot of the workflows you're talking about at this point are to move data to and from places where people might be on-prem someplace where they need, a color correction system that's hardware intensive. But do you see that all changing as well as people tend to work more remotely?
Buzz,
you go, Chuck, please.
Sorry, Hugh. Buzz, I'd say two things on cloud. One, part of it's an economics challenge, right? So remember that in the industry, if you have 25 Avids in your post house, you can turn on a project tomorrow in Azure, but it's a net new total cost. You aren't sweating an existing asset. So there's that kind of piece. And frankly, right now, the economics, it is still much more expensive in the cloud than it is on-prem. That's why I would expect we'll see virtualization first at scale before cloud. I think they'll be, 6 or 12 months apart, frankly. But the hard technical problem we have to solve is today, most of the way we push video around in the creative workstations is through a video cable, an SDI cable, right? No surprise, there's no contention latency or packet loss inside that cable. At cloud, the scaling challenge with cloud is the closest thing we have to a standard is NDI. NDI is a protocol that was really built for being inside a broadcast facility where you control capacity, latency, contention. It was not built for the big, ugly internet. We're working with some of our industry partners on those creative tool sets to build an open source API to push a video raster file so that you can still push at scale the same way we were showing you a demo today, but between clouds. We have to be able to push not only within, say, AWS, Google, or Azure inside the same logical location, but we also have to solve the problem of, hey, I have Resolve and Avid, but my visual effects workflow tools are all in Google. So it's a problem that we can solve mathematically on paper. We just got to get there and scale. And I think that's probably a 6 to 12 month problem for the industry. But I think those building blocks have to be in place so that we can, as an industry, move to something that's more efficient.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, I think that probably some of the things we did today could have been virtualized in the cloud as well. So we've done a similar demo where the Avid editor was actually completely in the cloud, and they were accessing the footage from Moxion in the cloud, and it never left the cloud. Also, I think that we're going to see a lot more integration, because when people are using these tools, they don't want to have to go through the context switch, especially on set. They're really, really busy. And I think what's super important is that as we move out of this, we kind of remember that, because if, for example, the video assist on set had to go to another application to download the footage to show the director on the screen, it's just not going to work for them. There are different kind of time constraints on set than there are in post.
That's a very good point. And I think, that's one of the things that we always have to keep in mind. We're changing the mantra from fixing it in post to fixing it in production, and which is where it used to be, right? But we didn't have this technological infrastructure to have to support. So it is important to, as an industry, to address these issues and really figure out what are the things that we should be doing on set? What are the things we can pre-plan for? Especially when it comes to virtual production, things like that. There's plenty that can be done prior. But Chuck, to your point, I think it's really important that as an industry, we not only find a way to get back to work, but we should find a better way to get back to work than what we left. I think that's the key thing. And that's why, I really appreciate what you're all doing, because you're definitely on the cutting edge. And I do think the world is going to be a better place once we get to a better place of working and a different way of working that's more efficient, that gets back to that collaborative nature, that doesn't bury us in our own data because we tend to generate an awful lot of stuff these days, and we don't have a swarm of IT folks on set, right? So we really want to be sensitive to that, but really appreciate everything you guys are doing, and I can't wait to see the movie Andy Serkis Eat Your Heart Out. That Godzilla movie is going to be amazing. So anyway, all of you, thank you so much for being here with us today from all over the planet, and we look forward to what's next from you guys. So thank you again. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye now. So Jim, what have you got up your sleeve for us next?
One of the most disappointing delays for films this year, for fans of Wonder Woman 1984, is the second delay in as many years for the film. The sequel, which was also directed by Patty Jenkins, who directed the first, stars Gail Gadot and Chris Pine. It's now scheduled for late spring of 2021. The original film grossed $821 million. Think of those numbers. And was not even in the top 9. It was the 10th movie of that year, behind Star Wars, Thor, and Guardians of the Galaxy sequels. So here's the latest trailer from Wonder Woman 1984.
This world is not yet ready for all that you will do. Your time will come, Diana. And everything will be different.
Citizens of the world, I'm here to change your life. Anything you want, anything you dream of, you can have it.
You look like you saw a ghost. Diana, look at you. It's like not one day has passed.
I don't want to be like anyone. I want to be an apex predator. You've always had everything, while people like me have had nothing. Well, now it's my turn. Get used to it.
I've never been one for rules. The answer is always more. The way I fly, they will never find us.
I forgot to tell you.
What?
Radar.
Will they shoot at us?
Barbara, what did you do?
You know, I'm not so keen on this one. I figure you are, but you know what? I'm ready to go.
I think we can do better.
Parachute pants?
Yeah,
Does everybody parachute now?
Not far from our studios here in Los Angeles today, scientists at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory are developing creative new ways to explore and study our solar system. We're honored to be joined by an Emmy Award winner who created the first 360 video release for NASA, where she works in VR, AR, and other immersive experiences to help scientists and engineers complete their daily work and help NASA make space more accessible to everyone. Sasha Samochina serves as the deputy manager of the OpsLab at ProtoSpace project lead at JPL. If you have questions for Sasha, please put them in the chat so we can get to them after the presentation. A native of St. Petersburg, Russia, and a graduate of the Art Institute of Chicago, please welcome Sasha to Remote Control. Thanks for being here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for this talk. I'd like to thank the Advanced Imaging Society and Jim and Brett for approaching me, and I'm very excited to share some of the work that I do. So without further ado, I'm going to start my presentation and take you through some of the ways that remote work happens at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So here we go. All right. So hi, everyone, again. I'm Sasha Samochina. I am the deputy manager of the operations lab at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or NASA JPL. So today I'm going to actually kind of go through what my purpose was in an early career and how it brought me to sort of an innovative lab that currently does a lot of really interesting work with both web development, web design, and augmented and virtual reality. So early in life, a lot of my questions came from this very simple source of how do you combine art and science? How do you do it without having to fit yourself into a bucket? And oftentimes the answer to that question was this shruggy emoji. Going through early school as well as, university, I felt as if I was always trying to be put into a bucket of art and science. And being someone that actually ended up going to art school and working and interning in a lot of science places, I kind of found this key to myself that really helped. I majored in film, video, and new media at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And from sophomore year on, I interned at the Field Museum of Natural History. So 3 years as a media producer let me do a lot of really interesting things, including both document what was going on in the museum, translate Russian to the career of a mammoth that died 41,000 years ago, and other really exciting things. But one of the greatest things that I worked on was this project called Restoring Earth, which really connected the idea of how media could make a bigger impact on the world. The whole point of the exhibit was to sort of highlight the sort of work that the Field Museum in Chicago does for both for people in the Amazonian rainforest. And so they have this program called Rapid Inventory Programs. And since 1999, those rapid inventories have brought together hundreds of partners to survey the Earth's least known wilderness and discovered more than 150 species new to science. And so that number has grown since I think I even had the original data here. So really exciting. But by the time we made this exhibit, 28 million acres of land were saved, and we were able to also create the third largest national park in Peru. And through the combination of working with scientists to basically go set up camp in these regions of the Amazon, study different species and cultures there, and then make a government case to the place where, was in danger of oil or deforestation of some sort, they were able to say, hey, let's save these communities. And I was able to be a part of it from the side of both creating media for the documents as well as telling the story in the museum. And so this experience really brought me to this idea of how beautiful it is to communicate science, and that you need kind of the artistic communication to go forward with making things change. And so that's sort of where my journey of the mind began. You always have to put a Carl Sagan quote or just a GIF in there. I think every presentation needs one. And so that's really through more training and kind of discovering web design and development. I have always been influenced by the story of Voyager I and II, which, if you're not familiar, they were built at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which I will give you a little history lesson on in a second. And both of these probes launched in 1977, and they are these wonderful, very advanced spacecraft that, launched the same time that the first Star Wars came out, if you want to put it in perspective. And the greatest thing about this for me as a child was that there's a golden record put on both Voyagers. And the idea of the golden record was Carl Sagan trying to say, hey, if this probe is going further than anything we have made on Earth has ever gone, let's put something about us on there. So it's, the best message in a bottle I think you can ever send. And I was very inspired by this story always. So when the opportunity came up to join the team at NASA, I was very excited. So I'll take you through a little bit of where JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory where I work, fits into NASA, and then we'll understand how both immersive technology and remote work have sort of augmented my current status in what I do. So JPL is one of 10 NASA centers scattered all over the United States. So here it is, nestled in the mountains, San Gabriel Mountains in Pasadena. The term JET for Jet Propulsion Laboratory was used because rockets seemed too much like science fiction at the time. JPL was actually formed in the mid-1930s when some California Institute of Technology students started experimenting with rockets. And due to an accidental explosion, the director of Caltech at the time, whose name was Theodore von Karman, asked if they could kindly take their experiments to an isolated area in the San Gabriel Mountains. And that's exactly where JPL started. So JPL was actually formed about 14 years before NASA became an agency in 1958. One of my favorite photos in the archives of JPL, there are many, but this one tells a very nice tale. So in the early years of JPL was sponsored by the US Army to develop rocket technology and Horpel Sargent missile systems. And this photo shows some of those US Army people looking at a rocket launch test. And I'd just like you to take a moment to guess which one of these you think the JPLer is. If you guess the man in the center with no shirt on, you would be correct. I love this photo because it really shows the essence of what JPL is. The people in the Army are looking at where the rocket is launching from, and the JPLer is looking where he thinks the rocket will land. And so the essence of that sort of forward thinking really inspired me to pursue a career there and to sort of, just love the history and everything about this wonderful place. So, excuse me, the first United States satellite was built at JPL and launched in 1958, also the same time NASA became an agency. This is the US's answer to Sputnik, and the difference being that Explorer 1 actually took data measurements of Earth. So Sputnik is the first probe in space built in Russia, and this tears me apart because I'm actually born in Russia and raised in America, so I don't have the favorite one, but I think they both did a great job. And Explorer 1, though, was different because it actually did science. It was able to detect the Van Allen radiation belt, which is a zone of energetic charged particles that trap solar wind. It's very important to the Earth's atmosphere and keeping it together. And I could speak more about this, but we do not have time in this lecture. But it kind of set apart what space exploration was going to be. We are home at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory to the place that tracks all of the communications between space and Earth. Dearly named the Spacecraft Flight Operations Facility, Mission Control, and our former director, Dr. Charles Alachi, calls it the center of the universe, because quite literally, we are speaking to everything in space all around the world, launched from all around the world, all of the robotic missions being back to us. And the reason, which I didn't mention clearly enough, I think, is that at JPL, we build all of the robotic missions to space. So other centers focus on human spaceflight as well as other science observations, which we do as well, but we do build space probes that are robotic missions. The theory there being robots go before humans go and make sure that it's okay for humans to explore or not explore certain realms. So mission control is wonderful, and it communicates through the Deep Space Network, or DSN. And NASA's International Array of Giant Radio Antennas supports this interplanetary communication that I explained. The DSN also provides radar and radio astronomy observations that improve our understanding of the solar system and the larger universe. It's really wonderful. There are 3 facilities spaced equidistant from each other, approximately 120 degrees apart in longitude, in Goldstone, California, near Barstow, in Madrid, Spain, and in Canberra, Australia. And the strategic placement of these sites permits constant communication with spacecraft. As our planet rotates, before a distant spacecraft sinks below the horizon at the DSN site, another one can pick it up and carry that signal on. So it's a wonderful thing. And here you're actually looking at one of those arrays, which are quite giant. And one of the most famous missions that we've had is the Mars Science Laboratory. And I mention this because this is sort of the mission and the data set that I started working with to sort of break through into a new realm of how to tell stories, as well as share those stories to the public. Just a brief history, Mars Science Laboratory is a robotic space probe mission to Mars, launched on November 26, 2011, and landing in Gale Crater on Mars, August 6, 2012. Some of you might remember that wonderful landing. And the overall objectives include understanding Mars habitability, climate, geology, as well as thinking about data to get for human missions to Mars at some point. And this is the mission that found evidence of ancient rivers and lakes, which is very exciting. So there are 17 cameras on Curiosity. That is the rover's name. So Mars Science Laboratory is the mission and Curiosity is the rover. And there are 17 cameras on her, and she's allowed to, with this technology, be able to take a selfie or just survey the environment around her, or do both. And I say she because JPL named spaceships in the same way that ships were named. So they're named after females. And so I am saying she when I talk about Curiosity. And so what we're looking at here is an image of what a full panorama would look like put together that Curiosity would send back to us. And now this is not a very, very clear image for a lot of people, because it's supposed to be around a sphere. And so back in 2016, before this image actually was completely put together, because this is made out of many images that Curiosity takes, the application program interface, or API, for 360s came out publicly from a lot of social media platforms. And because at NASA, we have in our charter the idea of the widest dissemination of information concerning its activities and results thereof, which is sort of more complicated speak to say things that happen need to be immediately communicated to the widest community, because we are funded by taxpayer money, even though we are a federally funded research and development facility. And so for me, intersectionality of sort of art and science, as well as teaching people, rang through with this wonderful panorama that I was able to work into the 360 API before it was publicly available. And then we let it launched. We launched it when the API came out for all of the people to see. So this was the first time the public could, in a lightweight way, see Curiosity and look at this amazing dune that she was so close to. It really puts you in her place. And this idea of sort of the excitement that stemmed from it really made me want to explore this further. And so you could say I became a little bit obsessed with the idea of what to do next, and what other missions we could sort of tell the story with in the same way. So Juno, which is a mission to Jupiter that arrived at Jupiter in July 2016. It's an orbital mission. You cannot land on Jupiter. But I was curious to tell the story of how to do this, how to kind of take the audience that follows JPL and follows NASA and put them on board the spacecraft. And so I created another 360 where you could fly along with Juno to look at Jupiter. And it's really exciting. This is just an animated GIF, but the data of the actual, the planet will be more updated as Juno flies around it more. So it's been there since 2016. So we could actually update this 360 with new data, which is super exciting. We also took the audience inside of Juno, and basically you were able to go inside of the 3D CAD drawing and see that actually, even though it's a robotic mission, this little spacecraft, or I should say huge spacecraft, it's about the size of a basketball court, has 3 passengers on it: Galileo, Juno, and Jupiter. And they're little Lego minifigures that we worked with Lego to put on board to sort of nod our hats to the history of how this mission could even be formed by the first person that looked at Jupiter, as well as the wonderful, Greeks who wrote about what is possible in the world and also observed the universe in a way that was very forthcoming. So that's very exciting stuff. And if you're interested, I created about 9 360s, and then the people after me working in this communications realm made many more. If you're interested, check out this website, and you will be able to download off the Museum Alliance page any 360 that's ever been created. I encourage you to do that and experiment with new ways to sort of make this even more amazing. And I would love to see that work online if you finish something. Okay, so from that realm, I kind of got really interested in the back end of Immersive. And I, with a really light ability and knowledge of code, I was like, let's go further down this path. I'd never really done spatial computing or anything like that. So I joined the OpsLab, which is a startup group you could think of at JPL. We are a bunch of designers and developers working on software to help scientists and engineers transform how their missions operate. We're basically trying to make life easier for scientists and engineers in an innovative way. And we do a bunch of cool things. We do focus a lot of it on augmented reality. So we will be talking often about this device that you see all of these people wearing, the HoloLens, which is a Microsoft-made hardware device, which we create software for. It is a device that allows you to see the world around you while projecting holograms and having both hands to be able to do different things. So I'm just going to dive into some projects that I think will be really exciting. And this really hits the mark of how I got to the idea of remote communications. So for Mars, we have several things that we've created. On the left, you'll see Advanced Science Targeting Tool for Robotic Operations. We love our acronyms at NASA. This is called ASTRO. ASTRO is the science targeting tool for the Mars 2020 mission, which actually just launched this July and will be landing in February. And I have a little slide for you guys to take a screenshot of because if you didn't yet follow this mission, you really, really should. It's going to be an exciting time in February. And OnSite is an immersive science targeting tool for Mars Science Laboratory operations. So the same data set that you saw of that 360 equirectangular image, I will show you how we took that idea way before and actually, before I created the immersive thing, OnSite already existed. And so let me take you through how we made a scientific remote tool that people can stand on Mars and basically talk to each other as if they're there. So OnSite, this is how 3D images looked before. We have, the old red and blue glasses that give you some depth. We found from studies in 2013 that we wanted to get a bunch of scientists to try virtual reality to see how it would feel to actually be immersed in the data and be able to see depth in a better way. So we did a bunch of testing, and we have a wonderful human human design research department. And we were able to really find through data, which we do a lot of research to prove the point, right, that accuracy was doubled when people worked immersively, and angular accuracy was almost tripled, and performance training got better. So at the same time we were doing these tests with virtual reality, the HoloLens 1 came out, which is what you see me wearing here. And with that, we were able to create this immersive tool called OnSite. So these experiments with immersing planetary geologists on Mars with photogrammetry turned into this all-encompassing application that allows you to don a HoloLens and be on Mars at a site that Curiosity is currently at. And you're able to enable scientists to work on Mars from their offices. So we created an automatic pipeline that pulls data from Mars Science Laboratory and Curiosity and automatically puts it in the HoloLens, and then enables you to look at Mars in 3D. So I could be a scientist in Pasadena working with a scientist in France, let's say, and we're both standing on the same site on Mars and looking at geological formations. Because I can't give everyone a HoloLens that's listening to this, I'm just going to give you a little taste of what the 3D mesh looks like. So this is actually a mesh created from real data. And when you don a HoloLens, this is what you would see. People that are in a session with you show up as, hologram figures that are able to kind of be named, and you can see them walking around. So if we were immersed in this, I would say, hey, look at this at the bottom of the dune. Let's check out maybe and put a tag here and see what it looks like, and discuss this further when we come back, so you can make marks, annotate. It's really kind of the first of its kind. This was the first app created for the HoloLens, and it's still used today for people to analyze Mars in a 3D way from Curiosity data. And an exciting thing for us was that, I know this slide doesn't look very exciting to most people, but this is a paper that was published about desiccation cracks, which are mud cracks that were seen through Curiosity's data. And they look like this in a picture, but they were first spotted using OnSite technology. So that was a great win for us because it showed that this kind of communication tool really worked. And this is just some screenshots to show you what it would look like to be on Mars with a bunch of different people. As you can see, when you crouch down, your avatar does the same thing. You can see the full scale Curiosity model, and you can just run around Mars and set markers and have these discussions. So this was our first foray into this kind of work. And as a lab, I'm not forgetting what I said about the charter. We always want to make more room to educate people and pass this on to the public. So we actually created Destination Mars, which is a museum version of OnSite, and takes visitors on a guided tour of Mars led by holographic video captures of astronaut Buzz Aldrin and JPL rover driver Rissa Hines. So this was the first real fully augmented reality experience. It ran about 3 months at the Kennedy Space Center complex in Florida. It had more than 28,000 visitors, and by far a really ambitious use of augmented reality in a museum exhibit. Even with that reach, we didn't think it was enough. We needed more people to be able to experience this and have teachable moments from how this immersive technology can change how the way that scientists view things and how they work together. So with Google Creative Lab, we created Access Mars, which is a web VR experience. And if you go to accessmars.com today, you can also see the same data set that's in OnSite and roam around Mars from a desktop or on your phone. And so this is a wonderful way to sort of get a guided tour of Mars with one of our scientists, Katie Stack Morgan, and learn more about how this could be useful in other applications, which is definitely something that we're thinking about. And with that in mind, I want to remind you about Mars 2020. We're landing on Mars in February 18th, 2021. It's a very exciting mission with a Mars helicopter, which is a new technology demonstration, as well as the main mission being that it's going to cache samples. So take samples of important places, cache them in the ground, and then another mission, Mars Sample Return, will go and get those and bring them back to Earth. So this is basically it's the same size as Curiosity, but everything is even more kind of advanced. So very excited to move forward with this mission. Okay, so we kind of had the science part of things. What about engineering? How can we help engineers look at things? And so we created this app called ProtoSpace. I'm actually the lead of this project. And this project allows mechanical engineers and non-mechanical engineers to view 3D models in full scale in the HoloLens. So we're able to actually take spacecraft before they're built and project them into places and use several tools to sort of iterate on designs with them. We have a web portal where you can take and decimate a model to be able to be viewed in a HoloLens. And then we have the HoloLens client, which allows you to, again, have remote collaboration sessions, both in the same location and in different locations. The web portal is great because it's more lightweight than a CAD tool, so you're able to spin things around, even if you have a CAD tool or not, be in the same session with people that are viewing things in a HoloLens. We have several missions at JPL that use these right now, and they basically save a lot of cost and a lot of time because you're solving problems before they happen. Here you're seeing a demonstration of all the tools that we use. So you can move, you can rotate a model, you can scale a model, you can create cross sections of a model. And in these ways, you're really able to interact in a way that you would never be able to specifically if you have a big spacecraft. The web portal shows you the avatars of the people that are in the HoloLens session. And you can also take the holograms and match them up to real hardware. So this is a huge deal of how we're working with astronauts. Right now in ISS, there are 2 HoloLenses. We did some experiments with Scott Kelly, who spent a year in space. And I'm going to dig into kind of those procedural works a little bit more. But this gives you kind of through the HoloLens view what you would see working on a team that's going through with looking at these 3D models. As mentioned, you're able to work at real scale with ProtoSpace. You're able to blend the virtual and the physical, and you're easily able to interact with models before any part of the spacecraft is machined. We're able to communicate spatial systems, test and practice installations, and execute procedures. So this idea of collaborative visualization remotely is extremely important to us. And as you can see, there's a little screenshot or a picture mock-up of what that could look like. Someone's on a computer, someone's in a clean room, and someone's in a HoloLens session, all at the same time, looking at the same model. Really, the takeaway is that we bring 3D designs into the world and solve problems before they're real. So we do the same with our crew in the International Space Station. As mentioned, I said we don't work with human spaceflight very much, but I was kind of saying not fully, but our team does. So we are able to design a procedure fully in the HoloLens, so no paper training, no procedural paper printouts at all. And we trained Scott Kelly on this procedure, and he was able to execute the procedure with our remote assistance and mission control in the International Space Station. And this application is it's built on ProtoSpace because we're taking CAD and we're loading it into this computer-aided design models. However, we called this Project Picard, Procedure Instruction and Collaborative Assistance for Remote Directions, because we're really able to empower crew with assistance when and where they need it. And one of the most exciting examples of this outside of ISS, International Space Station, is the work that we did with the NASA Extreme Environment Mission Operations, or NEEMO. Again, we love those acronyms. NEEMO is a NASA mission that sends groups of astronauts, engineers, and scientists to live in Aquarius, the world's only undersea research station, for up to 3 weeks at a time. The Aquarius habitat and its surroundings provide a convincing analog for space exploration. And so we were able to actually design a procedure that the crew, which was 2 scientists, 2 astronauts or aquanauts, because they are under the ocean on a lunar analog mission with their 2 habtechs, which you can see on the lower left of your screen there. And they were able to train and execute procedures that were created using ProtoSpace's Picard tool. And we got a lot of data feedback from this, and were able to publish a research paper basically showing that it is a lot easier to do things when you're in a heads-up display versus reading instructions and trying to memorize them or having them on a piece of paper. As you can see on the right here, you have instructional panels, you have attention directors, so you're really able to see notes and videos all in this heads-up display. And working with someone on the other end, they can remotely kind of also look at what you're doing. So it makes the margin of error so much less. Again, we always want to look at the public when we make these. So we created Spacecraft AR, which is a free app on an Android or Apple device, which you can download today, which allows you to look at a lot of our 3D models in the comfort of your own home. You can scale them, you can interact with them, you can play back animations, and you can also get into a session with your favorite person that you're in your house with and kind of understand how you could work on the project together as engineers. So sort of a very lightweight version of what ProtoSpace is, but truly a fun party trick or something to share with your friends and family, because who doesn't want to see a spacecraft in their home? And with this, I actually, I have a video to queue up, but I'm going to talk a little bit before we go right to it. Basically, we took the web version of ProtoSpace and were able to participate in a larger project this year where JPL actually created emergency ventilators, started doing this right when we went into quarantine in March. So we found a margin of ventilator kind of where they weren't making ventilators in a certain emergency ventilator sort of area. So they were getting ones that were for people that were not very sick and ones for very sick patients, but there was this middle ground that was missing. So the wonderful engineers and scientists at JPL started creating the vital ventilators. We made a pneumatic unit and a compressor unit. And the ProtoSpace team was brought on to create operations and assembly instructions for both the respiratory therapists and doctors and nurses that would be using the ventilators, but also the assembly technicians who would license the ventilators for free and be able to use them. So I have an introductory video of that story that I would like to queue up, and I'll return back to my slideshow after that's finished. So if we could queue that up, please.
We are designing an easy and rapidly mass manufacturable ventilator device, and it is a crazy project.
This crisis is unprecedented in our lives and requires precedented action.
I'm so amped up. I mean, it really, the adrenaline rush, it's exciting, but it's exhausting. And I think we all just want to do everything we can to try to help.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh, very cool. That's awesome.
I would say the biggest personal challenges that I have myself is I don't have time to sleep.
I think what JPL brings to the table is extraordinary talent. It also brings to the table tremendous innovation. The third thing it brings to the table is tremendous focus. The other thing that I felt, I see it in our team, and that is a call to duty. I have this talent, I'm an engineer or a scientist, I can do something.
We have the potential to save human lives, people that we might know, our neighbors, our families. And that intensity, it's amazing. It's amazing. And as stressful as this has been for everybody in the last couple of weeks, not one of us can stop.
We were so lucky to be able to have the kind of team that put this together, and just also embracing the technology of how to make these things make sense to the people that will be using them and assembling them. So that's just a nice story I wanted to tell in terms of how something can grow in terms of software and become a communication tool that even reaches far beyond the breadths of internal either Jet Propulsion Laboratory or even NASA. It's just a world communication tool. And we wanted to make something lightweight, and in that video it doesn't really explain exactly how everything came together, but it's really the passion of these people and kind of the forward thinking of how we could take things that already exist and make them work for us. So for me, back to the idea of kind of communication and art and science, for me, the intersectionality sort of now has become to work in the design process with flight missions, transforming the way scientists and engineers solve their problems, and being able to inspire the humans that are inevitably going to do so much more with both art and science. So I also see myself as trying to bridge the gap between what happened in history and putting a new and more realistic look on how science and art can be combined by loads of interesting and diverse people today to sort of better the way that we can have global communication and the way that we can better our world, specifically in this difficult time that we're in right now. So with that, I have some information if you want to reach out to me. There we have the bit.ly again for downloading the 360s. Please feel free to check out the NASA JPL YouTube, which has a lot of great things. And then if you want to reach me online, I am at Cloud Sasha on all the things. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. And I think we're going to throw it to some questions.
Sasha, thank you so much. That was incredible. I could listen to that all day long. We do have a question here in the chat, and I assume they're talking about the panoramas, but Vanessa was wondering what the resolution of the images are that you're getting from Mars. I assume that's after you're stitching it together, but could you speak to that a little bit?
So the images differ depending on what cameras take them. And off the top of my head, I don't remember all the differences, but actually, if you go onto mars.jpl.nasa.gov, you can go to the photos section and see the different see the different photo sizes. Also, I didn't mention this, but all of the content is there for you to take and download and use. So everything's in the public domain. So you're welcome to just go explore those on your own. And I can't wait to see what you find out with those.
That's great. And thank you again for being here today. It's truly amazing hearing what you're up to. I saw a bumper sticker the other day. I live near JPL, so it would make sense I'd see a NASA bumper sticker. And I think it's my favorite bumper sticker of all time that said, it just had the NASA logo and said, "I need my space." And,
oh, yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. So
yeah, those
you.
are good ones. There's also the one that says, "My other car is a rover on Mars," which is a pretty fun one as well.
Now, one question I have to ask you on behalf of my kids, I have twin boys who are really interested in science. Do astronauts get frequent flyer miles?
I don't believe they do, but there should be some sort of program for that, right?
I think so.
I think you and I can start a movement for the astronauts.
Let's do that. I'm all in favor. Well, Sasha, thank you so much. And we'd love to have you back as soon as Perseverance touches down on Mars, and we'll see where we go from there with some brand new images. But thank you again for being here today and for everything you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye. Okay, right now we're going to take a look at our poll results from our poll that we did earlier today. And we're looking at, the question was asked, when we think we're going to get back to concerts, right? And a number of you chimed in. Let's see, we had, the results were, well, the answers were March 21, July 21, March 22, or July 22. So 8% of you think it would be March of 21, maybe a little too soon for most of you. 18% or 16% of you said July of 22, a full year after that. 36% said March of 22. And the majority, actually, 40% said that we should be back attending major music concerts in July of 2021. So let's see what happens. Luckily, we get to enjoy music from wherever we are right now, but it would be great to get back into a concert environment. So thank you all for participating in the poll. Now, with our remaining minutes in the broadcast, we'd like to show you some technology that has made remote control possible. Our friends at MeetMo have prepared a brief demonstration and a glimpse behind the curtain for a sense of how we're able to bring you these sessions virtually. Please welcome back to the show, Michael Mansouri, co-founder of MeetMo.io.
Hi, I'm Michael Mansouri. I'm co-founder of a company called MeetMo. And just to tell you a little bit about MeetMo, MeetMo is a collaboration platform that allows us to collaborate with people and devices around the world as easy as sharing a web link. So imagine if have a camera like I do right now, I have a Canon camera directly in front of us, and I want to be able to control this camera remotely. I'm able to send a web link to it, and now I'm able to connect that camera to anyone, anywhere in the world, and we're able to not only view from it, but have full control of that device and camera. And let me kind of show you guys a little bit more about MeetMo and our platform. So this is our ConnectMo boxes. In here, what we have is a bonded cellular aggregation system. And what this allows us to do is leverage all the cellular network. We slap this onto the back of any camera or any device. So our platform is unique because we're able to do not only cameras, we're able to control view from cameras, lights, audio, even 3D assets on our platform. And so if you could see here, this has got a built-in encoder. So you don't need a computer. All you need to do is put this on the back of a camera. And what we'll do is we'll show you some of the topology. Daniel, do you want to show the topology? Okay, so this is our topology, and what you're seeing now is we're at an event, we're at a location, and we want to be able to control these devices. So here we have a 3D asset, we have lights, we have cameras, we have PTZ, we have communication systems. But now we need to remote this. We want to virtualize this. And how we're able to do it through our ConnectMo box is have a completely tether-free, cable-less, scalable system that you're able to attach to any of these devices, not just view, but actually fully control those devices, because on our platform, we leverage everything such as Wi-Fi, LAN, cellular, whether it's LTE or private LTE, which we use a lot for a lot of the studios and a lot of our clients that want to leverage private LTE, and we have a incredible relationship with Nokia in leveraging private LTE, as well as 4G and 5G. And with that, we're able to connect these devices right onto our MeetMo platform. And the way your production crew and directors and producers, they connect is they just hit a web link. That web link now connects us to the ConnectMo box, which connects us to all of the devices that we want to control. Now, downstream, how your client and users are able to use this is we created something which is what we call friction-free technology. Allows us to take into AR, VR, mobile, and desktop without needing to download or install any software or purchase any additional hardware. And if you also use our decoder box is an incredibly powerful, which is the same system, that allows us to connect directly bypassing H.264, H.265. Here, we can go 4K and even up to 8K. And Radian was the first company in the world to do live streaming of 8K directly into an IMAX-sized dome for Pro Bowl for NFL and Verizon. And what we did here was not do H.264, H.265. We leveraged 444 12-bit and at the highest resolution with the lowest latency. And this is what we're embedding into our ConnectMo boxes. So instead of sharing you guys just with power slides, I felt the most important thing is kind of really show you how we create this production, how this all came about, how do we make all this happen on the fly. So originally we were contacted by Advanced Imaging Society. We were working with Mike Pitzker and Brett Harrison and Jim and Buzz, and they wanted a custom platform that allowed them to connect people from around the world in a very effortless way, friction-free, that we can bring assets, view three-dimensional video files, bring in participants from anywhere by just sending a web link. And we contemplated several different methods. We decided, hey, what if we just bring everyone to a location and just do it the traditional way like we used to do? Unfortunately, we realized that is actually very cost prohibitive. It's very hard to scale. It's really hard to get. Some of the participants that we have are incredibly busy executives, and to get them to all be available at a certain time will be very challenging. This allowed us to redesign our platform specifically for the user's experience, which is for you guys, for Advanced Imaging Society members. And this allowed us to incorporate all of the connection tools so that we're able to connect participants from anywhere and send them what we call remote control systems, drop boxes, and they're able to self-install things and have higher quality cameras, and we get to control the lighting, and we get to control the audio, and we could remote into all these, and it allows us to do a lot more faster, cheaper, and better, frankly. So I'm just gonna quickly give you guys a quick preview, and we're gonna turn around and show you everything. So if you look here, what you're looking at here is, let's see, let me go to this camera here. So this is an actual camera that we have right now that is in Colombia. It is about 5,000 miles away. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera. As you can see, I'm moving the camera. Okay, so let me actually hit the preset. And that's all real time, no latency. The camera is 5,000 miles away, connected through our ConnectMo box. We're able to control and review that device anywhere in the world without doing anything other than putting that web address in. Here, we're able to also look inside here. Right now, we're looking inside of a underwater shot. So our ConnectMo camera is connected to an underwater camera that we're sending through the cellular network. Now it's connected to us. The same thing is when we're going to, let's go to our car cam. So here's our vehicle that's driving on the freeway, and we're able to connect to that camera remotely. And here I am. I'm able to easily control this. So why don't I go ahead and kind of show you guys some of the other features that we have built in, such as 360. So we support 360 views on our platform. So again, on this first surface, for everyone first looking at this, they always think, well, it's just a Zoom. I don't think, there's nothing wrong with Zoom. Zoom is an incredible platform. It's a collaboration platform. And for us, this was a different mission. How we got really focused on developing this platform for our industry was because ever since the COVID and everything that's happened with the pandemic, we had to rethink everything. And we had to build a tool set that we use for our own use cases, not as a perspective, but a real use cases. And for us, it was very important to have tools that are easy to use, we're able to control anywhere around the world. And what we're going to do now is actually show you a quick video that's going to give you the entire viewport. So, Damien, why don't you play the video?
Okay, this is the same one played in the video, the one we just played. Michael, you.
So what you're seeing now is our entire platform in action. So right now we have a group of people around the world, and they need to connect to a camera and control it. So as you can see, there's an Area Alexa, and I'm able to go through that camera, change the NDs. I also have a director that can communicate directly with the talent and on a remote location and have spontaneous conversations and queue them up. So we have full conversation. And here we're able to control any device through gesture or voice. And we'll demonstrate that for you a little bit later. So we're able to actually utilize Google Voice or Amazon to connect to a camera and do difficult connections or difficult processes. So here you're seeing even a 360 camera that we're able to control. As you can see, we're controlling the entire device. We also have full whiteboarding, so we can actually start looking at scripts, reviewing call sheets. We're able to what we call annotation of state. We're able to look at a Google Doc. Here's a 3D asset we're able to share with participants anywhere. These are all 3D assets that no one has to download any hardware or software to view. So again, it goes back to our completely being friction-free technology, only needing a web link to connect you to IoT devices to people around the world. So this shot that you're seeing is a production that we did for Renault in France. So the client was in France, agency was in New York, the director was in Santa Monica, California, and the shoot happened in Colombia. And we have to remote in. So we're in the middle of the desert. We're able to control a car, a camera inside of a car as it's driving, change NDs on the fly. And we're doing all this through a simple web link. And here we are. So here we go. And here's our 360 view. So now we're going to look around, and there's Jonathan. Jonathan, hey, John. And here we have our ConnectMo boxes that we used for our project here. So as you can see, we're able to control the light. So the light is remotely being controlled. So we're able to control its color temperature, we're able to control its density, we're also able to control the actual camera itself as well. So if I go into here, we get the interface to the camera, and now we're able to control the settings on the camera. Again, it's really simple to set up. It drops right into one of our flight cases. A lot of the technology, it wouldn't have any gravity without the right use cases, without people who are truly using this. And I'm honored to say that we have an incredible director who's been working with us from the get-go, from the moment we started working with Advanced Imaging Society in designing the entire user experience. And Damien Petro has done incredible work in live events. And what I want to do is I want to ask Damien how this has changed the way he's done traditional broadcasts. Because I can tell you last week when we did this event, we were able to do things that I could never dream of. I mean, we've done a lot of live events, which is I was able to do 4 or 5 productions all at the same time. And I'm talking all at the same time. We were able to do a remote telemedicine. We were able to do a session with another 75, 80 participants inside of a live stream. And these are things that, you know, in the past, we would have to move the entire infrastructure. But I'm going to ask Damien, what does he think about using a virtual platform?
Thanks, Mike. You know, when we started this great remote control series, you know, with the mantra around here was to really virtualize everything. We wanted to look at everything we were doing, and we said, how do we virtualize this? And as a director, for me, it was giving us this ability to stay in one place and see things from 10,000 feet. It allows you to visualize your content. It's almost gestural, kind of like Minority Report. But the other thing, too, is we have the power of the image here. This technology is high fidelity at low latency. Allows my talent to connect with their audience a little bit better. We have depth of field. We can control the camera. It's almost like being there with them. And I think lastly, before we wrap up this show, the great common denominator was where we can push the boundaries in COVID is we finally have one location for all these formats to play in now in the virtual space. Before, all these different formats were attached to different events. And now we have one place where we can all play in this playground like that. And I think that's really a fascinating place to be right now. With that, we are going to take Buzz, and I believe we're going to wrap up this show. Are you ready for that, Mike?
Yeah, I'm ready for Buzz.
Hey, Buzz.
Michael, that was amazing. Thank you. You know, now you've given me one more reason to decide that one of these days I'm going to get back to making a movie, but I'm going to do it in my pajamas. I never have to leave my own house. So thank you for that. Could you tell us a little bit about what the genesis for the project was, where that came from?
Sure. Frankly speaking, the genesis for this project came because it was triggered based on the pandemic. And when that happened, it was probably the most scariest thing for me and the most jolting thing for our industry. I had to really rethink about a lot of things about myself. I had to think about how am I gonna make a living again? How am I gonna be able to reinvent, bring my entire staff back into work? How we're going to restart ourselves, reinvent ourselves. So that's what we did. We actually ended up locking ourselves in our office and just really thinking about solutions, compounding solutions. And I'm really happy that, you know, we're not the only ones that are looking at remote collaboration. We have incredible partners and even collaborators that are looking at it. It's only going to accelerate the industry, because what we're trying to do is something that we've been always aiming for many years. And I think what happened was this pandemic, it jolted us. The jolt for me was originally out of fear. And a lot of people are driven out of 2 primal instincts. One is out of fear, and one is out of love. And I originally started out of fear, but then I just really pursued what I'm really passionate about. And the passion, what we do as filmmakers, we're not in the movie business to entertain. We're actually in the people business. And that people business is about connecting people to worlds that are only dreamt about about stories that we could only live through somebody else's shoes. And what a powerful medium that is. What an incredible honor it is for us to live and breathe this kind of industry and bring this to the world. So I just followed my heart. And I really believe that this was the right thing. And we have the right team that really is focused on the overall human experience. And I think a lot of our competitors are also thinking about that too. And I think it's a true honor. So it started with that, but before that, I'm glad we had Sasha, because our company is also commissioned by NASA to develop a virtual simulation center for the Mars mission. So for incredibly long journeys when there is no more communication, how do we simulate life-threatening scenarios, and how do we train for these? So we had to think about ways to be able to engage and also train with what we call friction-free technology, which means it doesn't need download, it doesn't need any apps. It's able to be able to take three-dimensional assets. We're able to look at volumetric light fields and all these things without going through all the steps of purchasing new hardware or software to be able to work with it. So originally it started as a training and education platform, but we got so many calls based on a need in our industry. And we felt that there was such an incredible honor for us to really move this forward. So MeetMo was founded, and MeetMo's mission is to connect, collaborate, and create.
That's fantastic. And thank you for always thinking outside the box, because that's what you do. And that's how you come up with these great things. I'm just curious, one last thing about what people's response has been to this, and how people are talking about using this approach to not only remote production, but even virtual production.
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I do want to say that this is a bittersweet moment for us. You know, we've had 4 weeks of collaborating with your team, with you and Jim and Mike and Brett and Damien from Brave New Media and all his crew and everyone else that's worked here. And it's, like I said earlier, this is a people business. And, you know, one thing we've taken for granted for many years is people. It's to look at someone's smile. It's to really look at someone and the human connections that, you know, we formed and have to reconsider now. So I would say that it's going to be sad to see you guys not here every Wednesday, Thursday, creating with us. You know, we've done things that are really different. We're creating on the fly. We're creating things with you that haven't been done before. And I think that was a really brave mission from Advanced Imaging Society. You guys didn't take the safe way out. And we also said yes to what we felt was very difficult and challenging. And from the outside, everything looks easy. Like when you go to a restaurant, you just order your food, but not everybody knows how much people are sweating in the background trying to make this happen. And I just want to really commend the team at Advanced Imaging Society for, number one, having the vision, and the next one is the courage. Because a lot of people talk about change, they dream about change, but they're just too risk adverse. And it goes back to those two primal instincts that we all have as human beings. One is out of fear, which you don't do much. You're always scared of losing things. And one which is out of love, which makes you fall and get up again. And I think we did a lot of that together here.
We did. And thank you. Thank you for everything. We've certainly had a blast bringing you all of the speakers, not only today, but for the past 3 sessions prior to this as well. And as we bring the series to a close, we want to give a very special thanks to our team, Gary Radburn and Matt Allard at Dell, Rick Champagne from NVIDIA, Michael Mansouri and team from MeetMo, especially Christian Poe and Johan Romero, Trey Hewitt and Justin Ackerman. And also thanks to Damien Petro and his Brave New Media team, and our friends at the PGA, the VES, ASC, and of course our friends at the NAB show. And of course, thank you to all of you for joining us from all over the world. These presentations will be available on the Advanced Imaging Society's YouTube channel, so please revisit them and share them with your friends. Thank you, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed the last 4 weeks of remote control. Please give us your feedback. We'd love to do this again, maybe this winter. So in the meantime, thank you so much for being a part of our success, and be safe. Thank you.